Hey there, guys. We get requests from clients all the time where the numbers in GA4 just don't look quite right. They may have a lot more traffic than they were expecting, or they may have a lot less traffic than they're expecting. And a lot of times this, corresponds to changes to the site, right? Like maybe they did a redesign, maybe there was some just fundamental changes to the site. The IT team was in making changes, or developers, or there's a new marketing agency that's been playing around with your analytics or something. So one of the first things that we do is make sure we look at their tags. So the GA4 tags, they can be implemented in any number of ways, right? So a lot of CRMs will have the ability to add your code, just the actual GA code to the site. You may just be able to add your the ID number to the site, and it'll implement it across the website. Others use GTM, Google Tag Manager, and that deploys it. And so one of the things that we see happening sometimes is dual implementations. So say somebody put in the tracking information into their website platform, and then somebody also put it into Google Tag Manager, not realizing that somebody else had put that in. And so what can happen is you have two Google tags, the same tag, on your site, and that can cause duplication of your data. The other thing that we see happening is people forget to put tags on the site, or assume that it was done in Google Tag Manager, or say there's another section of the site that uses a different type of platform. So we have clients, for instance, that will have a commerce site that also has an informational aspect to the site, like a blog or something like that, that's on a different platform. It's maybe WordPress or something. And so those might not be tagged correctly. So we're going to take a look at a couple different ways that you can check your tags on your site to make sure that they're there, to make sure that you're not duplicating them, and just to see the health of the tags on your site. So we're going to talk about a couple tools, the plugins for browser that can do this, as well as manually. We'll have links to the tools that we discuss. We don't get any payment or anything. They're free plugins for the most part in the description. So let's take a look. So here's a typical website. And one of the things that you can do is manually search for code. So you can go to the inspect, right click, and this is the actual code of the site. Now, if I just click Command F, I can look for the G tag on the site. And this is typically the Google tag that will be there hard-coded on the site in some way, shape, or form. Now you can see on this site, they have the G tag here, but it's within the Google Tag Manager. So they're deploying their tracking on Google Tag Manager. Now on other sites it's not necessarily the case. So let's take a look at this site. We're gonna actually do the page source since it's a little bit easier to read. Same thing, we're gonna look for G tag. And G tag is not anywhere on this site. So for whatever reason, the way it's deployed, it's not showing up in this homepage. Now I know that this does have Google GA4 on it. It has Google Analytics on it, but for whatever reason, it's stripping it out in this tag. It could be embedded in JavaScript or something like that, depending on how the CMS works. Let's take another look at just another website real quickly. We'll do the same manual process, and we're going to do find, look at G tag. And again, this one is showing in the Google Tag Manager. So we know that there's a Google tag on here. We don't know a lot about it as far as necessarily whether it's working correctly, that kind of stuff. We can see, for instance, this first implementation is actually UA, which is the old Universal Analytics. So that's not what we're looking for. That's not going to actually show any of the data that you want, because Universal Analytics is gone. So nobody's using it anymore. That's a deprecated platform, unfortunately. So you can see, like in this site, that's not going to help us much. So you can manually do it on some sites. It's not always the most intuitive by looking at the code. So let's look at another way to do it here. We'll just take a look at remain eternal again. Now in this site, what we've done is we've put in implemented the tag assistant tag. Now, if you're familiar with this, Google had this for years. The Google Assistant tag that would show you all of the Google related tags on your site. Now they deprecated it a while back and tried to force people to use other methods, which we'll also look at. And there was a big outcry in the community about that because it was a really convenient way to look at your site. Very quick and easy. You didn't need to have Google Tag Manager. You didn't have to have other tools. And so what they did is they brought it back and they actually cleaned it up a little bit. So now it's a supported tool again. So now you can see that when we click on that, that Chrome extension, which again, we'll link in the bottom so you can see how to find that. It's going to show you all the Google related tags on the site. So that includes, for instance, like the AdWords tags. This is your typical Google Analytics 4 tag. You have GTM down here. Obviously there's some old Universal Analytics tags hanging out there, which is not a big deal other than we recommend if you do have old tags on your site that you're not using, to look at doing something with that where you at least remove them, get rid of them, because they're just adding to the overhead of your site. It's more things that have to load. And so we've seen clients that'll have dozens and dozens of old apps and tools deployed on their site that load every time the pages load, and they're not using those tools anymore. So it just adds to overhead. It can slow down your page load times and just mess up your code. So you can see, like, it gives you a very quick and easy understanding of what tags are on here. This would also show if you have duplicate tags or if you have multiple instances, say, of GA4. For whatever reason, we see that happen all the time where one agency puts their own GA4 tags on the site and the client has their own, and then somebody else adds a different one. So again, you start to get all these different accounts on here that you don't need. So this will give you a quick overview of those tags. It will also link to troubleshoot. And so this, if you have access to Google Tag Manager, you can click on this and it will actually bring you into the tag management aspect of Google Tag Manager, where it'll show you what's firing and what's not. So for instance, if you click on the history change here and we go to, obviously UA is not firing. Let's go to the Google Analytics, the new GA4, and you can see page view fired on that history change. The history changes means that the status of the page changed. And so you can go through and look at how pages are firing on that site. So if we go back to that site and start clicking around, you can see how things change. So that is helpful. So for instance, if we went to a different page, so we went to the women's necklace page, that tag assistant is going to change. And you can see we've got other tags firing. So window load, let's go to the history chain again. So that had different tags firing here. We clicked on a link that fired. So you can see the various tags that are firing and what's happening on the site. You can also take a look at your data layer information, all of that kind of stuff, which we've touched on in other videos, but is related to how the information passes from Google Tag Manager on the site to your Google Analytics account. So that is a convenient link to have right here in the tag assistant. Okay. And we can look at, just do this as an example on some other sites, and you can see what this start to show you is other tools that they have that are Google related tools. So they have different advertising tools. This looks like it was probably a test implementation at one point, because I really doubt that there's a GA4 tag that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So somebody was testing that. Again, they have some old Universal Analytics on there. Let's take a look at this one and see what happens here. And same thing. So you can see this looks like it might be an incorrect code that was added without the G. Not sure, but that's again something that they could check. So that's that tool. That's the tag assistant that Google was going to take away, but they gave it back. So, all right. So that's super helpful. We definitely recommend that you get that. Now, there are other ways to look at tags on the site. So let's take a look at this one. We're going to close this and get out of there. So say we're on this website again, Remain Eternal. The other plugin that we recommend is one called Wasp. And again, that is free. And so when you install Wasp and you click on it, you can see some of the tools that are firing here. So it does give you some information about the tools, but where the real information comes in is that it puts in your developer console a Wasp tab. And so you can see that this is your developer console in Chrome. If you go to Wasp and then reload the page, it's going to show you all of the stuff that's firing on this site. And so you can see there's some Bing tags, there's DoubleClick, there's Facebook, and there's Google Analytics. And so you can start to see what types of tags are firing on the site and what can be impacting potentially your page load time and what's tracking and that kind of stuff. And so this is a good way to go in and actually look at all of the tags that are on the site and how they're firing. And so you can see here's different scripts, and all of this stuff is going to be impacting your page load time, and it's going to be also impacting your analytics. All of these things have to load on the page. And so you can start to get an understanding of like, is this stuff we really need on the page? Are we really using it anymore? Is it something that we should potentially remove? So Wasp, again, is a free plugin that just gives you a little bit more technical information about the tags on the page. Now, another one that can do that, then this has a standalone site as well, but it's a tool called Built With. And Built With, if you have the browser extension, will actually show you some of this information as well. And it is a paid tool, but they do give you a little snippets of free information. So you can see that on this website, there's Google Universal Analytics, there's conversion tracking, there's a Facebook signal, there's Pinterest, the Facebook Pixel, they're using MailChimp, Shopify Inbox, Google Tag Manager. So you can get an idea of all the different stuff that's on this site that is potentially tracking you or tracking customers. It's the technology that they use. So you can see that this is the Shopify site, for instance. And then there's all these other plugins that are Shopify apps that are plugins. So like Luke's, which is a review software, different tools within Shopify. So again, you can see all of the information about this site, about the plugins and stuff that they have on the site, the other code, third-party code. And this gets more detailed as you have the different paid versions and that type of stuff. Now, what is nice about Built With is they, like I said, they do have a standalone site. And if you go there, it will actually, you can get reports on how many people are using that technology. So not only what technologies are on the site, but it helps you understand how many other sites are using it. So Built With is also a good tool. So now, a couple free tools there that are helpful. So we have the Google Tag Inspector, we have Wasp, we have Built With, we have the manual looking of code. Now, if you do have Google Tag Manager, that is also exceptionally handy. So what it can do is, it's not going to show you all the third-party sites, but we do have a video where we've talked about this in the past, but it's worth pointing out again. If you go into your Google Tag Manager account, it will have your status up here of your tags. And so it shows potential issues. And so it says some of your pages are not tagged. So this means that Google's auditing your site. They're seeing that you have multiple pages on your site, and that some of them may not be tagged. And so it's alerting you to that. In this case, the maximum number of pages they'll look at is 10,000. Even if you have 100,000 pages, they'll just do a sampling. And so it allows you to then look at the not tagged. Now, even though this is big exclamation, like urgent, some of these you may not want tagged, right? And so if you look at this site, you can see that they're using WordPress, and it's parts of the admin and stuff like that that are not tagged. So of course you don't want that tagged. And so some of these other ones, they may or may not be tagged. But what this does is it lets you look at that in the tag browser, the tag assistant rather, and see like, is it really not tagged, or is it just coming back that way for some reason? And so if we open this up in the tag assistant, we can see that it is actually firing the GA4 connection. And so that is actually getting sent that data is sent. And so this is probably just missed it, or it didn't load quickly enough when it was looking at the site. So this will allow you, like I said, to look at those that are supposedly not tagged, all of them that are tagged out of that 10,000. And then you can do a quick analysis just to make sure that it's legitimate or not. And that uses the tag assistant. And so you can, like I said, see if it's firing or not. This, again, is limited because it's only looking at potentially missing tags on the site, which is super useful. But it's not showing you duplicate tags necessarily. So if you have multiple instances of the same Google ID implemented on the site, it's not necessarily going to show you that in this. It's just going to show you missing. So obviously you don't want missing data, but you also don't want data that is overstated either. So Google Tag Management tool, super useful. This is also available in links to this are not only just in Google Tag Manager, but they're also located in Google Search Console and in Analytics. So that is important to keep in mind. So again, let's take a look at this site so you can see some of what we're looking at. And it's taking a little bit of time. And it's saying that this is not found. So let's reload it and make sure. All right. And so this, you can see that it does have tags on here. It's got a Google Analytics tag. It's got an AdWords, multiple AdWords tags. That one looks incorrect because it's got AW twice. So that is not typical. So that one would need to be checked if they're having trouble with their conversion data tracking. That could be part of it, but it does have Google Tag Manager on there. And this is a good example of why you may want to use, for instance, if you view I don't want to view the page source. I want to inspect it. If you do the developer dashboard and use the WASP app on this, you can start to see, like, this site has a ton of different tags and scripts running on it. And so this is a good example of one where they might want to take a look at some of these tags and just make sure that they're still active, right? Are these still products that you're using? Are they tools that you're using? Can you get rid of some of these to get rid of the kind of overhead in the system? So you can see the Google Tag Managers on here. They have Google Analytics on here. So you can go through and try to manage some of those things. Ideally, these third-party tags would be deployed through in Google Tag Manager if they are truly a third party. If it's a Shopify app or something like that, it's probably managed through Shopify itself. So you need to remove them that way. But for a lot of third-party apps, whether it's like a Facebook Pixel or something like that, ideally you deploy those using Google Tag Manager, because it gives you one place where you need to go remove stuff or update it or pause it or turn it off or that kind of stuff. So that way it gives you a way to manage the tags on your site a lot easier. So I hope this was helpful. It's one of those things that we run into all the time where people are like, hey, we think our numbers look off. And a lot of times it's because there's something wrong with how they've deployed their Google Analytics. And it could be, like I said, it could be multiple tags getting added to the site inadvertently because you have lots of hands in the cookie jar and a lot of people working on the site. Or it could be that you accidentally removed it from the site altogether. Now, one thing I will point out is the tag assistant that we looked at where it was showing all of the pages that are potentially missing tags. That's super useful because it's giving you that in one spot. Whereas the tag assistant tool, so if we go back here, we have to do it page by page. And so if you think a page is, the problem, you can go to that page and it will reload and you'll see that there's stuff on there. So if you want to do it page by page, you can do that. Or if you have a suspicion that a specific page is, or landing page or something like that is what's causing the issue, you can do that easily in here. But it could be extremely tedious if you're trying to do this for a really big site and you just know that there's some tagging issues. But if you just select random pages and tags are missing, that's probably a good indicator that there's a bigger problem. So If you need help with your tagging or your Google Analytics or any other marketing needs, feel free to contact us. I have a link down in the description for a free consultation. So if you would want to talk to me for 30 minutes and talk about some of your needs or some issues that you're having, we're happy to talk to you. So we are always looking for new clients that we can help. So stop on by our website and give us a holler, and we will try to solve those problems for you. So have a great day. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.